All right, coming into the garage with Jeff, we're going to do a quick overview of the home charging of a 2023 Hyundai Ioniq all-wheel drive limited Ioniq 6. So hopefully today we'll be able to cover some of the basics on home charging, kind of what you could expect, what people experience when they're at home, or what your different charging options are, and also to take a look at the size of the Ioniq 6 and compare it to other vehicles in the electronic class. So one thing you'll notice is right off the bat, the front of the Ioniq 6 comes with a rather unique front bumper, front LED and tail lights for the headlights and tail light combination, as well as just the overall shape of the Ioniq 6. So one thing that Hyundai did in comparison to even their sister brand for Kia, they kind of went more of a little bit of a retro approach when it came to pixelized LEDs, lights, and exactly the type of accents that you'll see throughout the body. But in addition to that, this car sits in the class of the mid-size sedan, kind of the Honda Accord, the Toyota Camry area. And as far as size is concerned, this is kind of what you would expect on most family sedans. This is, I would consider, it's on the rather large side of the house, but it is something that when it comes to size, you're not going to have very many compromises when it comes to things like that. Jeff, did you have anything that sticks out to you when you look at the Ioniq 6 in comparison to other vehicles?
I would say size-wise, although it may look a little smaller than the Accord and vehicles in that category, interior, you have a lot more space because you're not dealing with the traditional layout of the gas-powered vehicles.
Gotcha.
So you don't have the whole transmission tunnel and everything like that.
Yeah, the one thing that Jeff really keyed on is the inside of the car, which we'll show you. The inside of the car actually has a very, very flat bottom. Having that battery reside underneath allows the vehicle to kind of stretch out both the front and the second row seats. So let's take a look at those and see what we got.
Which we will always love.
So we'll do a quick walk around with the body so you guys can see what the actual body of the Ioniq 6 looks like. If there are any questions or things that you want to take a look at or you want to review in comparison to other vehicles, definitely feel free to let us know in the comments or shoot us an email so we can take care of that as we go do other overview videos and comparisons of cars in the electric vehicle category. So as you see on the Ioniq 6, they do have pop-out door handles, which you see pretty common for a lot of electric vehicles, especially after Tesla coined and had that on the earlier model vehicles that Tesla put out. You'll see pop-out door handles. We'll see flush door handles when they're closed and locked. And then again, looking at the inside of the Ioniq 6 interior, one thing that you'll notice is, again, the seats sit extremely flat. These are not where you would sit and almost like, I guess you have an opportunity, especially in the back. The thing you won't see where you have to compromise and have an area where your legs are extremely cramped. You can see you're in the front door or the front seat. This is the passenger seat. There's a lot of extreme space up front. And then we can take a look at the back. Unlock this real quick.
Okay.
Sheet. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. So here's the back row. So thinking about, Jeff, how tall are you?
6'2". So that's with the seat all the way back.
So Jeff was sitting up front, and this is about how much room you would have in the rear of the Ioniq 6. with the seat pushed all the way back on the passenger side. So can you do me a favor real quick, Jeff, and push the seat on the passenger side up probably just a little bit further to see how much room you actually could end up with in the back depending on what your front passenger needs. On the Ioniq 6 Limited, all of the seats are powered, or both seats on the front, driver side and the passenger side powered. So as you guys can see, inside, again, plenty of room, plenty of space. In comparison to, I would say, more like a Model 3, which most people are very familiar with, you're going to end up with a lot more legroom option in this particular car. Model 3 is a great car, great overall electric vehicle choice. It is a little bit on the smaller side in comparison to the Ioniq 6 or other vehicles. Most of the ones that we're probably familiar with that are in the sedan category are likely going to be in the luxury sedan category, talking about the Lucids, the Model S, those kind of things. But in the standard sedan, this is probably the largest of the options that you're going to run into. All right. So today we really wanted to chat, kind of talk to individuals, talk to everybody about what your charging experience would be once you come home. So everybody talks about being able to supercharge. You can see my, what I consider daily EV at this point. I've had my Model X since about, I think, 2016 and almost 100,000 miles on it. It's done wonderful, done great. But most people are really accustomed to hearing, hey, I need a supercharger. Can I use a supercharger? What am I going to do when I can't go somewhere? Or do I need to charge at home? What do I need to do? So we're going to talk about that today to say, okay, here's our plan. Here's what we expect. These are the type of things we would experience. But also, what are our options? So everybody obviously doesn't have a electric vehicle charger at home already. So if you don't have one already installed, kind of cover your bases. This kind of talk about what you might experience, both needing one, and then what do you need in the meantime if you don't have one, or are there any other options? So this right here is a Juicebox, 40 amp Juicebox charger. There are several brands. This one is Wi-Fi connected. What you'll notice is that most brands or most options, you have an option for what you would consider a smart home charger. They basically give you an app that you can connect to. They have options for you to use the app to control when your charging sessions start and stop. Do you want to operate on a schedule for peak time, off-peak charging, as well as the other type of things that you might need, like device or vehicle specific things, like a specific rate or charge. But most importantly, the benefit of having a smart home charger is that, like in Maryland where we live, Maryland, PG County, BG&E, Pepco, they offer specific things like reduced rate if you have a connected charger, where the charger itself, they can actually determine when you're actually charging your electric vehicle at home. So because of that, they offer a reduced overall rate, depending on what your actual power company has. There are two types of things. There's a time of use rate where it'll say, hey, I'm going to charge my vehicle during this time. And they know based off of your usage and the connected charger that when you charge in that window, you're offered a lower rate for your charging than you would pay for other things in your house. The other type of charging is what you would have more of a rate of charge for your whole house, where your actual house bill, what you may pay for your off-peak time and peak time, they change those numbers for the entire house. So as long any electricity used from the grid, you pay those things because you have an electric vehicle charger at home that is connected. So in this example for me, at home, so these last almost a little bit over 7 years, what BG&E did for us, or somebody that would be on this particular rate, they would actually take a couple of cents off of your off-peak time, and then they increase your peak time by a couple of cents as well. So most people, if you're already monitoring or doing what you would consider healthy management of your electric vehicle or electric use in your home, you try to tend to use your house electric items, your dryers, your heavy use things, when you're in off-peak anyway. So you try to enhance that as much as possible. And for me, what that resulted in was, even with my Tesla, where I may drive, I think on an average I drove before the pandemic, I was probably somewhere around 15 to 20,000 miles a year. And I did the majority of my charging at home. My actual house bill did not go up at all. It actually went down for my house, even though I charged my car here. So
before I got the car, let's just say my bill was $250 a month. After I got my car and started charging at home using that adjusted rate, I spent right around $240, $250. So there was a net zero in that regard. And in some instances, I might have saved a couple of dollars, especially saved a couple of dollars in comparison to driving a non-electric car. My previous car was an Audi SQ5 that I spent on average somewhere around $5,000 a year in gas. So that $5,000 a year disappeared, and I didn't have an increase on my electric bill because of it. So granted, the requirement in order to be able to use one of those better or other charging opportunities is to have a home charger installed. If you use a portable charger, which we'll also talk about, you don't get the benefits of that because they're not connected to where they're connected to Wi-Fi and that they consider a smart management charger. So depending on who your rate or your electricity is provided by, that electricity would actually, or that choice about which ones they use and allow you to opt in, they'll usually have a list of ones for you to pick from, and that's how you determine which ones that they allow you to have that charging difference.
You can't pump the gas and go walk in the store for 30 minutes. It's not possible. You know, you wouldn't pump gas for 30 minutes, but you certainly sometimes wait. I mean, we go to Sam's and Costco here all the time, and you pull up in the middle of the day. How many people are in line at the gas station? Just wait. You don't have to do that.
You could spend 30 minutes.
Yeah, just doing that. And then you still got to get out and go into Costco and get your things. So those kind of things are usually, it's a retraining of what we are used to, a lot less than it is not something that we can do. It's certainly doable. Now, definitely need more chargers the more cars we get.
Right.
But that's a short-term problem that's being worked every day. So that's the part that I would remind people that be cognizant of. And again, the example I use for Sam's, I just I voluntarily didn't charge to go there. It's not like I had to go to Sam's to actually charge up. I mean, I could have stopped at 2 other places on the way to Sam's and still done the same thing. So those kind of things shouldn't be forgotten when it comes to that. So one of the stuff we wanted to talk about with the actual home plugs, we kind of briefly touched on it when we talked about charging rates and charging times, speeds. So whether you have one of these, whether you have another option, you got a BMW or Rivian or any of the other cars, no matter what you have 3 options to plug up at home, or generally, let's say 3 general options. You can plug your car straight into a wall socket, like a regular 110. Same thing that charges your phone if you have one in your garage or outside available to you. You're generally going to get about a mile or 2 per hour when you charge it, if you do that way. Now, if you only commute 10 miles a day, that might work for you. You might say, hey, as long as I take out 20 miles and I put in 15 or 20 somewhere in that area in the time that I'm at home, that's going to be totally fine for me. Maybe that's totally acceptable and I don't have to worry about that moving forward. That's possible. That's option 1, regular wall plug. I have a friend that has a Model 3 that we'll be interviewing on a different episode. He actually does that, where he stays. He has a detached garage. The house was built a long time ago, and having a plug wired into that garage didn't make sense because he doesn't drive enough on a daily basis in his Model 3 for it to matter when it comes to that. So for now, almost a year, I think, he's been driving. That's how he charges. Now, if he needs to replenish faster, he may stop at a supercharger or something like that. But that's certainly not the norm. People absolutely get by doing it. Now, I point back to the idea, if you live in a place that does give you reduced rate, that doesn't qualify you for reduced rate, you just be paying whatever your normal rate is for your home. It's still cheaper, far cheaper than gas, but the best benefits or other benefits you kind of are not available to you when you do that option.
Right. Now, is he able to use his portable charger?
Yeah, so depending on the car, depending on your Tesla, they used to come with the portable chargers. Now, I think you may have to actually get one, depending. They cost somewhere between $250 or $400 if you had to buy one. But if you have a portable charger, that charger plugs into the port and basically has a cable with different plugs on the side. So I'm not sure if, can you get this one up here? This is one of the ones that I picked up, fast charger, which is in the back. I'll put a link to that, or I'll share the URL so you can see what it is. This is a portable 120, 240 option. charger for home. So it's the same type of charger that you would get installed or get if it was delivered with your car. Depending on your car, it may come. But the idea is you keep that with you, or if you want to keep it at home in your garage, wherever, you just plug it out, pull it out every day. When you want to use it. So remember, right into the wall, 110, regular socket like your phone, 1 or 2 miles an hour. If you bump that up a little bit, and then you say, well, I'm going to use a 240, which is level 2 charging, then a 240 can give you somewhere in a range of 7 miles to that 30-mile category, depending on how high amperage you actually have installed in your home. So you'll see cars that say they'll take 30 amps, 32 amps, 40 amps, 48 amps, 70 amps, 80 amps. All those amps are just multiplying what's available to you at the very, very low one. So the conversion is going to be based off of how big your battery is and then the range of the car when it has 100% battery. So we'll talk more about maybe what those numbers are with a chart, put that so people can review it. But you can say at the end of the day, you might get, like, again, 20 miles per hour, depending on the 240. So a 240 plug, let's walk in and take a look at the 240 real quick. A 240 plug is basically the same thing as a dryer outlet. So the plug on a 240 looks just like this. It's basically the same as what you would have for a home clothes dryer. So remember we talked about the portable charger. So that one comes down every day, or I guess you could leave it plugged up. But the idea is it's not permanently mounted and you can take it with you. So back to what we were talking about travel. When you're on travel, which is the reason why that portable have that. But again, if your car came with one, my Tesla has one, a couple of the other vehicles like the Genesis line, Genesis GV60, GV70, G80, they, I believe, come with a plug as well. I'm not sure if BMW also includes theirs. Ford, I believe, gives you one with the Lightning or the Mach-E. You take it with you. So at the end of the day, if you have one that supports both a 110 and a 240, what that does is if you get to a place that has 240 outlets available, a lot of places that have RVs do it, hotels, that's what you'll start to see now. So when you look at amenities, a hotel will say, I have a pool, I have a continental breakfast, I have the EV charging station, or I have a 240 outlet available to you, a 50 amp outlet available for you. So if you see that, take your plug with you. It's like you take your charger. So you don't really have to worry about necessarily do they have available charger. You really are wondering whether they have an available plug that I can use. Most places almost always have a regular wall socket somewhere. But now, again, 1 to 2 miles or, somewhere in that area. If you're out on vacation and you're not going to be driving your car everywhere, some people will say, hey, that works for me. I'll take that and then I'll plug up when I park. And then 2 or 3 days later when I leave, I'm on full. It more so about what are your actual needs while you're gone. So those portable chargers, generally, like I said, they range depending on which one you get. If you get one that supports the faster speeds or level 2, talking about usually around $200 to $400. Keep it with you. Keep it in your trunk. They usually come with a bag. Like we talked about before, the other plug, this is the plug that you'll see on an Ioniq or on an EV6 or a non-Tesla vehicle. These plugs, the bags will have a plug for this. It'll have a plug for it could have a plug for your Tesla. Depending on your Tesla, if you got one, you can also have a converter, which is like this. This came with my Model X. So this actually basically converts the plug that you see here into your Tesla. So this can charge both, no problem. Eventually, the Tesla plug the North American Charger Center plug will be able to charge all vehicles as they make the swap, or a vehicle like this that already has one of these. Well, eventually you could have a adapter at the end of the day. And the adapter is something that usually at this point they're being manufactured or fabricated now, depending on your brand. But at the end of the day, you're talking about $100 to $150 for a plug. So that's actually something I wanted to touch on when it comes to shopping for vehicles, whether you're shopping for something now or you're saying, hey, I'm not sure if it's time. Do I want to wait until the car swap over? Certainly you could do that. But if you were already planning on buying a car, and today the last thing was you were concerned that you didn't have the newer or you didn't have the test plug, having the adapter is really what you would need. So the example that I gave earlier in the episode was before I made my first transition to my Model X, I spent $5,000 a year in gas. If your option was to save $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, whatever the number is, in gas, and get one now that you wanted, but it didn't have the plug, having that adapter for you to be able to use something while you were out, when it becomes available to you, it's like $150.
But you talk about the amount that you saved in gas.
Right.
What about overall vehicle maintenance?
Right. So let's talk about that. So when it comes to vehicle maintenance, in 7 years, 100,000 miles, my Model X has had, let's see, tires. I don't count that, right? We all have to get tires. I haven't had brakes. My brakes I'm still on my factory brakes, and they still won't need to be changed based off the last estimate until I reach right around 100 to 110,000. So I got maybe 13,000 miles. No brakes, no pads, no rotors, none of it. All of the engine stuff that you potentially need, don't need that. So the annual savings, the oil changes, the kind of stuff that you would have on an annual basis, zero. Other types of things that I actually got, I think I ended up with some suspension parts that I ended up getting done, I think maybe right around 6 years in, that added up to about $680, including labor on both sides. All of the things when it comes to battery warranties, brand, like, so on the ICE car, you're talking about you get your engine. On battery operated cars, I'm on your battery. Tesla's battery warranty, 8 years, I think either 100 or 120,000 miles, completely covered. These, same thing, 8 years, 100,000 miles, depending on the vehicle. Could be 7 years, 8 years, somewhere in that time frame, no issue. So when people compare and say, well, I need to get an extended warranty for anything beyond, or powertrain warranty, whatever you heard before. So if you're comparing it to powertrain, that's your powertrain and the battery. Right. So really most of the things that I purchased on the car, for the most part, outside that suspension, which was a one-time thing, it's in 6 years, tires, windshield wipers, and wiper fluid. You might need a regular 12-volt battery that you would have in a car. Over time, most of those do get replaced, in a certain time frame. Something about $160 repair, or $100 or $180, depending on the battery that you need, $200. But again, that's not different in any way. It's not tied to the most of the majority components that we're talking about. So people walk away, you get a lot of things, time and belt repair, and all those other types of repairs that you might average $500, $600, $700 a year doing, including your oil change and stuff like that. You don't have any of that anymore. I'm not saying that you can't have something break. If it moves, it can break. But the whole point is, on these cars, if it moves, it's a lot less. There's a lot of things that move are movable parts that give you an opportunity to have a failure. So the longevity in that regard is something that we definitely want to take. Any other thoughts?
We covered travel, maintenance, charging at home versus charging outside. So for a person that was considering entering the EV market, what would be the thing that you would tell them to look at when they're looking at different vehicles?
Most of the stuff that we kind of cover, right, is no matter what car you're going to pick, doesn't matter, EV, gas, hybrid, doesn't matter. You got to find the car that you like, right? So if you buy something that you don't like, or if you got to kind of get coaxed into it, it might not be the right car. But keep an open mind, understanding that the stuff that we were used to doing, what we can consider normal, it doesn't have to be like that. So being normal doesn't mean you got to stop on a regular basis or plan to make your stops to fill up out and about. Being normal is not leaving every day near full, because you just couldn't do that before.
Right.
Unless you stopped at the gas station, a couple miles before you got home every day.
Right.
That's the only way that was the option for most people. So the first thing I would say is look at what do you need when it comes to size, right? So even looking at this, when people first see this, you see people say, it's too small, like what you said. Hey, this is too small. And I say, well, it can't possibly be too small once you get it. Most people are not aware of the time frame that it takes to do those kind of things. Most people are not aware of the space until you actually get inside of it. So getting inside of it is also important too when it comes to size. And a lot of times, again, when you look at this compromise that we have with the seating area based off of how the engine is built on a normal car, that's usually an important thing to be cognizant of. So usually you'll see classes, right? One thing also, when it comes to shopping brands, we've historically been used to brand loyalty. We've also been used to brands being a specific thing. So Hyundai, Kia, Genesis, to some regard, Genesis was new. It's a luxury vehicle that came along much later than Mercedes and BMWs and other brands. Then you have Acura, the subsidy of Honda, right? So everybody's used to that. And you have Porsche, and you have subsidy of Volkswagen to some regards. A lot of that's gone out the door. The stuff that you find that are standard when it comes to features, when it comes to things that you actually get inside of the cars, they start to blur classes a bit. So even more importantly, when you say, okay, well, why does this Kia cost so much? Or why does this car cost so much? It ain't just a battery operated car at all. A lot of the things that used to not be available are being included as standard features. When you look at interiors, the quality of the interiors are much different when it comes to that too. And even the type of technology that drive the vehicle itself, a lot of things when it comes to that, they're kind of resetting what people should expect from an actual car in a car company manufacturer. So that's really a big difference, I think, that people probably don't see as much when they look at the type of brands that are available or what options you might have. They have a hard time sometimes seeing that wow, if I'm used to Toyota or Honda and I'm used to them leading the category or leading the way, why am I considering something different? Or how can a car that wasn't luxury before be so close to a luxury car capability or deliver those kind of features and promises now? And it's because the brands have kind of reset in that regard. BMW still has BMW characteristics. Mercedes still has Mercedes characteristics. But what a luxury car is these days is definitely starting to cross over all types of brands. Like you may see a higher end vehicle from Kia fall into a category very close to that, and even what they offer when it comes to the interior, like feel and feature. So those kind of things are also part of the new learning curve, I would say, when it comes to brands themselves. And what you will see, like even when it comes to features as far as like usability, the range, the stuff that people want out of the car, some of those things are not being touched by brands and companies that have been around for so long, and now they're being touched from the ground up, or they're being led in class by brands before that never did that. So you're getting those things up basically since day one.
So speaking of that, I saw a VW ID4, and one thing I didn't realize was each manufacturer, their cars charge at a different rate.
Mm-hmm.
So each platform is different.
Yeah. So great point.
So that's something to consider when looking at a vehicle.
Yeah. Yep. So everybody, let's talk about Tesla first. So Tesla, everybody talks about supercharger. Supercharger is all you hear, right? Supercharger. That's basically Tesla's name for level 3 charger. Outside of that, Tesla doesn't necessarily lead the league in the speed of charging at level 3 charging speeds. That's supercharger was the name of their charging network, right? So platforms, there's an 800 volt platform. Porsche uses that. So the Taycan has that. 800 volt platform exists in the Hyundai EGMP line. So the Ioniq, the EV6 line, the EV9, those are 800 volt chargers. When it comes to that, we're talking about charging at a level 3 charger, again, out and about in public. So those are the things. So back to, we covered the Tesla's charge speed. So now we talk about the 800 volt platform as an example. It's a different platform that was designed and some of the actual manufacturers adopt. So Porsche uses 800 volt charger, level 3 charger. So again, comparison to a supercharger. Ioniq, Hyundai, EGMP platform, 800 volts. So the EV9, 800 volt. Depending on what you choose, the platform again is how fast you can get charged. So the example, that actually is why I supported and sought out the Hyundais and the EV6s in the Kia platform from the get-go. The 800 volt architecture allows for charging while you are out. If you stop at a charger that supports charging speeds using that, you can charge from 10% to 80%, and depending on the car's battery size. So 18 to 22 minutes. You asked about the ID4. One of the detractors, again, great car overall. One of the differences and what set that apart and why I didn't personally look at an ID4 or something in that category was you to charge from 0 to or 10% to 80 is in that 45-minute category. That's a long time, and it's actually one of the lower in class options when it comes to charging speed. So what that says is when you're out in public, if you're using the fastest option available to you, so that means your battery's in the proper condition or proper temperature, precondition. That means you've met all the criteria to be the fastest you could possibly get. That's 45 minutes. If you're not in that range, that 45 minutes could turn into an hour. Those are the differences between when somebody says, hey, I don't have it. You already have people talk about what their experiences are, why they're nervous about getting an electric vehicle. That might exacerbate their concern. Does that mean the car isn't good? Doesn't mean that. But it means that if you're not prepared, it could be something that could absolutely turn you off from using or moving into that electric vehicle form. And the 45-minute window that we just talked about, it could be somewhere 37, 45 minutes. Toyota's option, they're first in line to the EV SUV class. Theirs could be an hour. That's a long time.
Right. And so speaking of that, this winter we had an issue in Chicago when it was extremely cold.
Sure.
Can you speak about that?
Yeah. So
to clear up some of the
myth about it. So just as an example, Tesla in other countries, Norway, places like that, been around. It's cold in Norway. It's definitely cold. Not an issue, right? So there's a couple of things you want to make sure you take care of in a gas car that you have to do in a gas car too, that you can do in an EV. You don't want to be on empty when it's cold outside. You don't want to be anywhere near empty when it's cold outside. You get less range when it's cold outside. But guess what? In an ice car, you get less range when it's cold outside. That hasn't changed. And depending on the car, you can lose anywhere between 12% of your maximum capacity or maximum range to 30%. EVs are no different. Yes, you could have some cars that are options that are like that. But in the EV, the one difference that we have to consider when it's cold outside is the heater is being powered, and depending on the car itself, if you got a heat pump or something like that, the reason why you can hop in an electric vehicle when it's 10 degrees outside and then still be warm in about a minute is because it's done by electricity. So your car warming up and getting to a temperature where you feel comfortable inside, your cabin temperature is being regulated by that as well. So that is where you may see a lot of use of your battery when it's colder outside. So people will say, hey, you'll see some cars that have a driver-only mode for temperature. So if you don't want to heat up the whole cabin and you just want a zone, you can take advantage of that. So you don't use as much power when you're out and about. Those things are different in an electric car versus what they are in a gas car. But back to that main percentage chance. Depending on the car, I'll share a chart so you guys can see what the actual kind of differences are in tested criteria. Depending on the car, you also notice that there's a range effective range in colder temperatures. So the first couple of things that we talked to about advice, right, is making sure that your car is ready to be preconditioned if you need to stop. So preconditioning your battery is important, but you can't precondition if you don't have any battery to use. So that's a thing to be cognizant of as well. So an example, right, the Ioniq 6. You can issue preconditioning or start preconditioning in a car when it's time to charge, when you're getting ready to charge for level 2 charge, so that you have the fastest charging time available to you if the charger supports it and the car is ready. You're basically entering a charging station that supports DC fast charging into your navigation system, and then that kicks off preconditioning, which takes somewhere around 15 and 20 minutes, so that when you arrive, your battery is warm enough to take and get the fastest speed available to you. In order to use it, you have to be above 26% battery state of charge, so that preconditioning is going to take a little bit of battery from you in order to be able to warm up your battery to get you ready to go. So in that example, again, when you're going to go to the charger, you would put in the location and then you would allow the car to do. If you're already below 26%, the car will not allow you to do preconditioning because they don't want you to run out of battery before you get to the charger. Tesla also has preconditioning, which is built into when you're getting near or around charging station or when it's time to actually charge, functions in that way. Some brands are starting to make it so that you can actually issue a preconditioning command just by hitting a button. That is coming depending on what you might have. Everybody doesn't do that yet. But back to your question about being in the cold, most of it has to do with just behavior. Is that, hey, I know it's cold outside. Don't run your back, just like you don't want your gas tank to possibly freeze if you're having gas in it. It's cold outside. Just want to change your habits so that you can utilize and do something without causing yourself strife down the road. But not being able to charge when you're out, or not being able to use the charger because it's too cold. If the charger doesn't work, but gas freezes too. If the power goes out at a gas station, guess what you're not going to get? Gas.
For more upcoming technology reviews, EV insights, and anything in between, don't forget to give me a follow on Threads, YouTube, or Instagram.